Okay, yay, found my jacket. Woo! So in module 2, we're going to talk through an annotation so you can see what sorts of steps you're being asked to do. Want to preempt by saying that this is a very long one and you don't have to always do all of the steps if it's not relevant. So, first one is you need to give us your bibliographic details. Right? That's actually really important. That one's a non-negotiable. The way this booklet works is that on the left is the example from the student work and on the right are my notes. So I'm not going to read them to you, but please refer to them if you get stuck. Once we put our bibliographic details in, and you'll see they're proper bibliographic details, they're not just the URL, we then pull out the bits of the source that we think are useful. Okay? Now, when we're doing this, you'll notice that, say, this green section, that's the key idea that the students pulled out. And then they've actually spoken about it. Relates to focus question 4 about how we can work to preserve languages as part of culture. So we're actually getting a response from the student so that we don't just have a whole bunch of random notes, basically. Then what the student has done is actually summarize this into her own words. So she's taken the raw information and she said, what is this teaching me? And she's put it in here. Then we do a bit of a reflection where we talk about what the key finding or the usefulness was for the source. So we've started with raw notes, we've summarized it, and then we've explained what we've actually gotten out of the resource. Following that, we do a source analysis. Now this is where we're going to think about things like credibility, reliability, validity. We're going to have keywords like bias. We're going to have words like currency, authorship. There's lots of different elements to this that we will go through in more detail after. Once we've done our source analysis, if it's relevant and timely, we'll talk about our ethics and we'll put some ethical behaviours in there. And where possible, we're going to try to avoid talking about not breaching copyright and plagiarism, because you definitely have to mention that, but that one is very broad. What we would like to see is you actually talk about the ethics of your topic, ethics of you as a researcher, and what sorts of responsibilities you recognise that you have. Capabilities, then showing us your understanding changing, maybe things that you've developed, maybe skills that you've built on. And then if possible, any questions that this source has raised for you. Now it might be that when you're actually reading it, you're going question mark, don't understand, don't know what that is. It's really important you actually write those questions down and find out the answer from somewhere else if you need to. You can see the student's done a glossary because we didn't know what this term meant. Again, they've referenced where they've gotten the source from. They've set up some things that they need to do as a future action. So they are planning again, and then they've done a cross-check. So they've shown that there is one source here that they've actually gotten information from. Then another interview that they've done matches in this way. And why is that important? Why is it an important aspect for it to match? Okay, so that is an example of an annotation. Now that looks very long because it's got all the notes on the side, but what we can see here is another example. This one looks equally gross because it's all squished together, but what you can see is that they've done a very similar process. We have a bibliography, we have the key information, and they have put the quote in with some notes regarding the resource. They've then talked about what they've learnt and why it would be useful. And then they actually break their source analysis up into credibility, reliability, and bias, validity. You can choose to do that. You might not want to, totally your call. You'll see as well that they go through capability, then ethics, then cross-check. So 2 very different looking sources, but the same process. When we are thinking about this, realistically, we're meeting a checklist, okay? We've got a source, we're reading and summarizing it, we're analyzing it, and then we're trying to show our development for our capabilities and our ethics, our knowledge, and our skills.